Commander Taiho stood in the observation deck of Crossroads Haven, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. The space station floated in neutral territory, far from any empire's reach. Every year, species from hundreds of worlds came here for the Tournament of Worlds. It was not a real war. It was a show. A chance to prove strength without spilling real blood. Taiho's people, the Valkyrie, had won the tournament for the last 8 years. His chest swelled with pride as he thought about it. The Valkyrie were natural warriors. Their skin was thick like armor. Their bones were dense and strong. They lived for 300 years and spent most of that time perfecting combat. To Taiho, other species were weak, especially the humans. He turned to Sub-Commander Kyung-ho, who stood beside him. Kyung-ho was younger but careful. Too careful in Taiho's opinion. "The humans are arriving," Kyung-ho said, pointing at a scarred ship entering the docking bay. Taiho laughed. "Of course they bring a damaged ship. They probably cannot afford repairs." Kyung-ho did not laugh. "Commander, I have studied human military records. They are more dangerous than they appear." "Dangerous?" Taiho scoffed. "They have only had space travel for 80 years. We have had it for 5,000. They are children playing with weapons they do not understand." The human ship docked. Taiho watched as the crew emerged. There were only 5 of them. Most teams brought at least 20 warriors. The humans wore bulky armor covered in patches and dents. It looked like scrap metal welded together. Their helmets were scratched and worn. One human walked at the front. The name on her armor read Captain Nari. She was short compared to Taiho. Most species were. But she moved with purpose, her boots heavy on the metal floor. Behind her came Lieutenant Minho and Specialist Yunji, along with 2 others whose names Taiho did not bother to read. Ambassador Wonho approached Taiho. The ambassador was old and wise, always speaking of peace. "Commander Taiho, I trust you will show respect to all participants." "Of course," Taiho said, but his eyes remained on the humans. "Though I wonder why they even bothered to come. Everyone knows humans are soft. They lack natural armor, natural weapons, natural strength. They hide behind machines because their biology failed them." "That is a narrow view," Wonho replied. "Adaptation is also a form of strength." Taiho dismissed the words with a wave. He walked toward the central gathering hall where all teams met before the tournament began. The hall was massive, with representatives from dozens of species. Some had scales, some had fur, some had crystalline bodies that reflected light. But the humans stood out not for being impressive, but for looking so ordinary under all that crude armor. Captain Nari removed her helmet. Her face was young but tired. Dark circles hung under her eyes. Her black hair was cut short and practical. She looked around the room with calm, measured movements. She did not seem excited or nervous. She seemed patient, waiting. Taiho decided to approach. Several other warriors followed him, curious to see the commander confront the weak humans. "Captain Nari," Taiho said loudly, making sure others could hear, "I see you have brought your team to the tournament. How brave of you." Nari turned to face him. Her expression did not change. "Commander Taiho, we are here to participate." "Participate," Taiho repeated with a smile. "Yes, I suppose that is all you can do. Tell me, does your armor hold together well? It looks like you built it from spare parts." Some of the other warriors chuckled. Nari did not react. Her face remained blank. "The armor serves its purpose," she said simply. "And what purpose is that?" Taiho pressed. "To protect your fragile bodies? Humans are so weak. Your skin tears like paper. Your bones break like glass. You need machines to do what our bodies do naturally." Lieutenant Minho stepped forward, but Nari raised a hand stopping him. The lieutenant obeyed instantly. "You misunderstand," Nari said, her voice calm and flat. "The armor is not for protection." Taiho raised an eyebrow. "Then what is it for?" "Containment," Nari replied. The word hung in the air. Taiho frowned, confused. Containment? What did that mean? Before he could ask, Nari continued. "We will register for the combat trials." "Is that all, Commander?" Taiho felt annoyed by her calmness. He wanted a reaction, anger or fear. Instead, she gave him nothing. "Actually, no. I challenge you. My unit against yours in the tournament. Let us see how well your crude armor and weak bodies perform against real warriors." Specialist Yunji glanced at Minho. Something passed between them, a look that Taiho could not read. It was not fear. It was something else. "We accept," Nari said. "Non-lethal weapons only." Tournament standard rules. Agreed, Taiho said with confidence. Though I doubt the rules will matter. This will be over quickly. Nari put her helmet back on, the faceplate sealed with a hiss. Through the visor, Taiho could barely see her eyes. We will see, she said, and walked away with her team. Kyung-ho stepped beside Taiho once the humans were gone. Commander, are you certain this is wise? The humans have a reputation for unpredictability. A reputation built on luck and desperation, Taiho replied. They won a few battles against raiders and pirates. That does not make them warriors. Tomorrow we will show everyone why the Valkyrie are superior. But as Taiho walked back to his quarters, he could not shake the feeling of Nari's calm gaze through that visor, and that word kept echoing in his mind. Containment. What could humans possibly need to contain? The next morning, Taiho woke early and prepared for the match. His quarters were simple but comfortable, decorated with trophies from past victories. He put on his combat suit, a flexible material that enhanced his already formidable strength. The Valkyrie did not need heavy armor like weak species did. Their natural hide could stop most blades and projectiles. Kyung-ho entered without knocking. They had fought together for 50 years. Formality between them was unnecessary. I reviewed footage from human combat operations, Kyung-ho said, his voice serious. Commander, they do not fight like any species I have studied. They use unusual tactics. They accept losses that other species would not tolerate. They adapt quickly. Taiho secured his weapon belt. You worry too much. Tactics mean nothing when your opponent is physically superior. One of our warriors equals 10 of theirs. Perhaps, Kyung-ho replied, but doubt filled his voice. They walked to the arena together. The tournament grounds were massive, capable of holding thousands of spectators. Today the stands were full. News of the challenge had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see the mighty Valkyrie face the upstart humans. Taiho's team consisted of 20 elite warriors. They stood in formation, perfect and disciplined. Each one had trained for decades. Each one had won countless battles. They were the pride of the Valkyrian Empire. On the opposite side of the arena, the human team prepared. Just 5 of them. They checked their weapons in silence. No battle cries. No speeches. Just quiet, methodical preparation. Captain Nari stood at the center, her armor fully sealed. The other humans moved around her with practiced coordination. Taiho noticed how they communicated with simple hand signals. No words needed. Ambassador Wanho stepped into the center of the arena. His voice amplified across the space. Welcome to the Tournament of Worlds. Today we witness a challenge match between the Valkyrian Empire and the Human Mercenary Corps. The rules are simple, non-lethal weapons only. Victory is achieved when one team surrenders or can no longer fight. Medical teams stand ready. May the strongest prevail. The crowd roared with excitement. Taiho felt the energy and smiled. This was what he lived for. The thrill of combat. The certainty of victory. But before the match began, Taiho walked to the center line. The crowd quieted, sensing something. He wanted everyone to hear this. Captain Nari, he called out. The human captain stepped forward to meet him at the center. I want to thank you, Taiho said loudly, making sure his voice carried, for giving us this opportunity. Nari tilted her head slightly. Opportunity for what? To show the galaxy the difference between real warriors and those who hide behind metal scraps. Your armor is an insult to combat. It shows weakness. It shows fear. It shows that humans know they cannot survive without their machines. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Others seemed uncomfortable with such open mockery. Nari stood perfectly still. Her voice came through her helmet speaker, flat and emotionless. Are you finished? Taiho leaned closer. I wonder what is underneath all that armor. Probably just soft flesh that would tear at the slightest touch. Bones that would snap like twigs. Tell me, Captain, why do your people even try to be warriors? Nature did not design you for it. Behind Nari, Lieutenant Minho shifted his weight. Specialist Yunji's hands clenched into fists, but Nari raised one hand and they both stopped immediately. The armor is not to protect us from you, Nari said, her voice still calm. The armor is to protect you from us. Taiho laughed. The crowd laughed with him. Protect him? From humans? The idea was absurd. We shall see, Taiho said, turning back to his team. When this is over, perhaps you will understand your place in this galaxy. Nari returned to her team without another word. Taiho noticed the humans had a brief, silent exchange. They did not seem worried. They did not seem angry. They just seemed ready. Ambassador Wanho looked troubled as he exited the arena floor. The signal lights turned red, then yellow. "Team's ready," the announcer called. Taiho rolled his shoulders. His team formed up behind him, weapons ready. 20 against 5. Experienced warriors against desperate humans. This would be over in minutes. The human team spread out into a loose formation. Nari stood in the center. Minho took the left flank. Yunji moved right. The other two humans positioned themselves at angles. It looked random to Taiho. Disorganized, the light turned green. "Begin," the announcer shouted. Taiho charged forward, his team following in disciplined formation. They moved like a single organism, perfectly coordinated from years of training together. Their weapons were primed. Their aim was true. The humans did not charge. They stood their ground. That should have been the first warning. Taiho's team opened fire first. Energy bolts filled the air, all non-lethal but capable of stunning or incapacitating targets. The shots were accurate, aimed to overwhelm the humans quickly, but the humans moved. They moved fast. Too fast for beings in such heavy armor. Nari sidestepped 3 shots that should have hit her center mass. Hunji dropped low and rolled, avoiding a whole volley. Minho twisted his body at an angle that seemed impossible. Then they returned fire. Every shot found a target, 5 weapons. But they fired with such precision that Taiho's front line went down in seconds. Not dead, the weapons were non-lethal but stunned and unable to continue. Taiho blinked in surprise. He had not expected that. His warriors were among the best in the galaxy. How had the humans hit them all? "Reform," he shouted. "Spread out." His team obeyed, changing formation. They split into 3 groups, trying to surround the humans. But the humans adapted instantly. They moved as one, shifting position to maintain optimal firing angles. Another volley. 3 more of Taiho's warriors went down. Kyungho spoke through the team channel. "Commander, they are predicting our movements. They know where we will be before we get there." Taiho gritted his teeth. That was impossible. His team used standard military tactics, yes, but they were professionals. Reading their patterns should not be this easy, unless the humans had faced these tactics before. Many times. In real combat. The battle continued and Taiho's confidence began to crack. His warriors were falling one by one. The humans had not taken a single casualty. They moved like machines, precise and unrelenting. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Then Taiho decided to end this himself. He charged directly at Captain Nari, his strength and speed far beyond human capability. He raised his weapon, aiming for a direct hit. Nari turned to face him. She did not run. She did not dodge. She waited. Taiho fired at point-blank range. The energy bolt hit Nari square in the chest. Her armor cracked. Pieces fell away. Hydraulic seals hissed as damaged sections automatically detached, and Taiho saw what was underneath. His world stopped. Metal. Cold, dark metal where flesh should be. Captain Nari's chest plate had cracked open, revealing not skin and bone but synthetic muscle fibers wrapped around an artificial rib cage. The ribs were made of some alloy that gleamed under the arena lights. Between them, Taiho could see mechanical organs pulsing with blue energy instead of blood. Her entire left arm was cybernetic. Not a prosthetic attached to a biological limb, but a complete replacement from the shoulder down. The synthetic muscles moved smoothly, mimicking natural motion, but they were clearly artificial. Cables and fiber bundles ran beneath transparent sections of her armor. Taiho stood frozen. His weapon hung loose in his hand. He stared at the human captain, unable to process what he was seeing. Nari looked down at her damaged chest plate, then back at Taiho. Her expression had not changed. She seemed neither embarrassed nor angry about the exposure. She just reached up and pulled more of the broken armor away, letting it fall to the ground. More metal, more synthetic parts. Her spine had been reinforced with articulated segments that glowed faintly. Her right shoulder showed surgical scars where biological tissue met mechanical enhancement. Through a transparent section near her collarbone, Taiho could see what looked like a secondary power core. "This," Nari said, her voice still calm, "is what containment means." The arena had gone silent. Every spectator stared in shock. Even the announcers had stopped talking. The only sound was the quiet hum of Nari's internal systems and the hydraulic hiss as she moved. Taiho took a step back. Not from fear, but from pure disbelief. This was not augmentation. This was not simple enhancement. This was systematic replacement of biological functions with mechanical ones. Nari was more machine than human. You are... Taiho could not find words. Still fighting, Nari finished his sentence. She raised her weapon again. The match is not over, Commander. Behind her, Lieutenant Minho reached up and removed his helmet. His face was young, maybe 30 human years. But when he turned his head, Taiho saw the neural interface ports running down the side of his skull. His eyes had a faint digital overlay, probably targeting systems. Minho smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Specialist Yunji pulled off her damaged gauntlet, revealing a hand that was entirely synthetic. The fingers moved with perfect precision, each joint articulated beyond natural human capability. She flexed them, testing the systems. "We tried to warn everyone," Minho said, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "Humans don't fight fair." "We can't afford to." Taiho found his voice again. What are you?" "Survivors," Nari replied simply. "We are what humanity had to become to survive in your galaxy." The referee's voice crackled over the speakers, uncertain and shaky. "Medical team to arena floor. Match suspended for safety eval—" "No," Nari interrupted, her voice cutting through the announcement. "We signed waivers. We are fully functional. The match continues." She turned to face Taiho's remaining warriors. Most of them had stopped fighting when they saw what was beneath her armor. They stood in shock, weapons lowered, staring at the humans with expressions of horror and confusion. "Commander Taiho challenged us," Nari continued, her voice carrying clearly now. "He mocked our armor. He called us weak. He wanted to show the galaxy that humans do not belong among warriors." She paused, her mechanical hand clenching into a fist. "So let us finish what he started." Taiho wanted to protest, wanted to call off the match, but pride held his tongue. He was Valkyrie. They did not surrender. They did not run from challenges, even challenges that had become something completely unexpected. "Continue," he said, though his voice lacked the confidence it had held before. The human team moved again, but now Taiho saw them differently. Without the armor hiding their nature, he could see how they moved. Too precise, too coordinated. Their reaction times were impossible for biological beings. Their accuracy was beyond what natural evolution could produce. They were not using tactics learned from training. They were using tactics hardwired into their enhanced neural systems. They were not reading the battle. They were computing it. The fight resumed, but it was not really a fight anymore. It was a demonstration. The humans moved through Taiho's remaining warriors like a programmed sequence. Each movement was efficient. Each shot was calculated. There was no anger, no passion, no warrior's fire, just cold mechanical precision. Taiho tried to rally his team, but they were shaken. Seeing the truth beneath the armor had broken something in them. They had been fighting what they thought were weak, desperate humans. Now they realized they were fighting something else entirely, something that had chosen to become machines rather than accept defeat. One by one, his warriors fell, stunned, incapacitated, but alive. The humans were still following the rules, still using non-lethal force, but there was no doubt about the outcome now. Finally, only Taiho and Kyungho remained standing. They stood back to back, surrounded by the 5 humans. The crowd watched in absolute silence. Nari walked closer, her damaged armor revealing more of her mechanical body with each step. Taiho could see now that her legs had been reinforced with hydraulic systems. Her feet were partially synthetic, designed for stability and speed. "Do you yield, Commander?" she asked. Taiho's pride warred with reality. He was beaten, he knew it. His team knew it. The entire galaxy watching this match knew it. But admitting defeat to humans, to beings he had considered inferior, went against everything he had been taught. Kyungho spoke quietly beside him. "Commander, we have lost. There is no shame in acknowledging superior tactics." "They are machines," Taiho whispered back. "Not warriors." "They were warriors first," Kyungho replied. "They became machines because they had to. That is a kind of strength we never needed to learn." Taiho looked at his sub-commander in surprise. When had Kyungho become so wise? He turned back to Nari. She waited patiently, her weapon still raised but not threatening. Just ready, always ready. That was the difference, Taiho realized. The Valkyrie trained to be ready. The humans had made themselves permanently ready by rebuilding their very bodies. "We yield," Taiho said finally. The words tasted bitter, but he said them clearly so everyone could hear. "The match is yours, Captain Nari." Nari lowered her weapon immediately. She nodded once, a gesture of respect between warriors. Then she spoke loudly enough for the entire arena to hear. "Commander Taeho fought with honor. His warriors are skilled and brave. Today we were simply better prepared. That is all." It was a gracious victory speech. She gave him a way to save face. But Taeho barely heard it. His mind was still trying to process what he had seen, what he had learned about humanity. The crowd began to cheer, uncertain at first, then louder. They were not cheering for the Valkyrie or the humans specifically. They were cheering for the spectacle they had witnessed. The impossible match where the underdogs had revealed themselves to be something far more terrifying than anyone imagined. Medical teams rushed onto the field to check Taeho's stunned warriors. The human team gathered together, helping Nari with her damaged armor. They worked in practiced silence, clearly used to field repairs. Ambassador Wanho approached Taeho as he left the arena floor. The old diplomat's face was grave. "I tried to warn you," Wanho said softly. "The humans are not what they appear to be." "They never were." "You knew?" Taeho asked, anger flaring. "You knew what they had done to themselves?" "Many in the diplomatic corps know," Wanho admitted. "But humans hide it for a reason. Other species react with fear or disgust. Some want to ban them from tournaments. Others want to study them like machines. The humans just want to be treated as equals." "Equals?" Taeho laughed bitterly. "They are not our equals. They are something beyond." "Perhaps," Wanho said. "But remember, Commander, they did not choose this willingly. They chose it to survive." "There is a difference." Taeho walked away without responding. His mind was full of questions, and he knew only one person could answer them. He needed to talk to Captain Nari. He needed to understand. Taeho found Captain Nari 3 hours later in the station's medical bay, not receiving treatment but helping repair her armor. She sat on a bench, her chest plate completely removed, her mechanical interior fully exposed. Lieutenant Minho worked beside her, welding broken sections together with a small plasma torch. Taeho stopped at the doorway. Part of him still recoiled at the sight. Everything in his biology told him this was wrong. Bodies should be flesh and blood, not metal and circuits. But another part of him was curious, fascinated even. Nari looked up and saw him. She did not cover herself or seem embarrassed. "Commander Taeho, please come in." Minho glanced at his captain. "Should I leave?" "No need," Nari replied. "The commander deserves answers. He earned them in the arena." Taeho entered slowly. The medical bay smelled of ozone and metal. Other humans worked nearby, performing maintenance on their equipment and bodies. He saw one human with his entire back panel open, adjusting something in his spinal column. Another had removed an artificial eye and was cleaning the socket. It was disturbing, but it was also strangely matter-of-fact. They treated their mechanical parts the way soldiers treated their weapons, just tools that needed maintenance. "I have questions," Taeho said. Nari nodded. "I expected you would ask." "Why?" It was the only word that came out, but it carried everything Taeho wanted to know. Why would they do this? Why would they sacrifice their humanity? Why would they become machines? Nari set down the armor plate she had been holding. She looked at her artificial hand, flexing the fingers slowly. 83 years ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. She began. "We were excited, naive. We thought the galaxy would welcome us. Instead, we found something else." She paused, and Taeho saw something in her remaining organic eye. Not quite sadness, not quite anger, something deeper and colder. Raiders found our early colonies first. Pirates, scavengers, species that saw humans as easy prey. We had no natural armor like the Valkyrie, no thick hides like the Karathi, no regenerative abilities like the Xanthari. We were soft and slow and weak by galactic standards. Minho continued the story without looking up from his welding. The first colony ships that were attacked had no chance. Entire populations wiped out. Thousands dead. Men, women, children. The raiders did not care. To them, we were just resources to steal from. "We fought back with what we had," Nari said. "Conventional weapons, standard tactics, but we kept losing. Our bodies could not match alien physiology. A Valkyrie warrior could break human bones with one punch. A Karathi could survive injuries that would kill 10 humans. We needed an edge. So you became machines," Taeho said, trying to keep judgment from his voice. "So we adapted," Nari corrected. "The first augmentations were medical. Soldiers who lost limbs in battle received prosthetics, simple ones at first just to restore function. But then someone realized those artificial limbs could be made stronger than natural ones, faster, more durable. She stood up, and Tai-Ho could hear the quiet whir of servos in her legs. Volunteers started requesting augmentations even before they were injured. Enhanced reflexes through neural implants, reinforced skeletons, synthetic organs that could filter toxins and survive in hostile environments. Each improvement made us more effective, more able to protect our people. The colony wars lasted 50 years, Minho added. By the end, every human combat soldier had some level of augmentation. It became expected, necessary. You could not survive on the front lines without it. Tai-Ho looked around the medical bay again, seeing the humans in a new light. How much of you is still human? Nari touched her chest where her mechanical heart beat with steady precision. My brain is still mostly organic, though enhanced with neural processors. About 30% of my body remains biological. The rest was replaced over 19 years of military service. Each injury, each replacement, each upgrade. Does it hurt? The question surprised Tai-Ho. He had not meant to ask it. Nari considered the question carefully. The procedures hurt. The recovery hurts. But once the systems are integrated, there is no pain. Pain is just a signal that something is wrong. My body can turn that signal off if needed. That is not natural. No, Nari agreed. But survival is not always natural. Sometimes survival requires change. Evolution takes millions of years. We had decades, so we evolved ourselves manually. Tai-Ho sat down on a nearby bench, his legs suddenly feeling weak. The other species. Do they all know about this? Some do, Nari said. The diplomatic circles know. Military intelligence knows. But most civilians do not. We wear the armor not just for protection, but to hide what we have become. Other species react badly when they see, some with fear, some with disgust. Some want to outlaw augmentation, call it unnatural or against galactic law. Is it? Tai-Ho asked. Against galactic law? Minho finally looked up from his work. There are no laws against self-modification. Each species has the right to determine its own evolution. But there are social pressures, expectations. The galaxy likes to think of itself as civilized, but it is built on natural hierarchies. Strong species at the top, weak species at the bottom. Humans were supposed to stay at the bottom. But you refused, Tai-Ho said slowly, understanding dawning. You changed the rules. We played the hand we were dealt, Nari replied. Nature gave us weak bodies and short lifespans. But it also gave us something else. Adaptability. Problem solving, the ability to use tools and technology. So we used those gifts to compensate for what we lacked. There are over 2 million augmented humans in military service now, Minho added. Mercenaries like us, corporate security, planetary defense forces. We have become the soldiers other species hire when they need efficiency over honor, results over tradition. Tai-Ho felt something shift in his understanding. That is why you hide the augmentation. Not from shame, but from strategy. Let others underestimate you. Nari smiled slightly. It was the first real emotion Tai-Ho had seen from her. You are smarter than you pretend to be, Commander. Yes. We let other species see what they expect to see. Weak humans in crude armor. It gives us an advantage. I mocked you, Tai-Ho said quietly. I called your armor scrap metal. I said you were weak and desperate. You did, Nari acknowledged. And you were not wrong about the desperation. We are desperate. Desperate to survive. Desperate to protect our colonies. Desperate to prove we deserve a place in this galaxy. But weakness? She looked down at her mechanical body. We stopped being weak the day we decided survival was worth any price. Tai-Ho stood and walked closer to her. This close, he could see the details. The craftsmanship of the artificial muscles. The complexity of the joint articulations. The seamless integration of machine and remaining flesh. It was horrifying and beautiful at the same time. Does it bother you? He asked. What you have become. Nari was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than before. Sometimes. Late at night, when I am alone, I remember what my body used to feel like. How my heart used to beat irregularly when I was nervous. How my hands used to shake when I was afraid. Those imperfections made me human. She clenched her artificial fist. Now I do not shake. My heart beats with perfect rhythm. My body performs exactly as programmed. I am more efficient, more capable. But also, Lesu, do you regret it? Taeho asked. Nari met his gaze with her one remaining organic eye. The other was cybernetic, though Taeho had not noticed until now. No, because the alternative was death, not just mine, but my people's. Every piece of myself I gave up bought time for someone else to live. Every augmentation made me better able to protect those who could not protect themselves. Would you regret sacrificing your comfort for your people's survival? Taeho had no answer. He knew he would sacrifice anything for the Valkyrie. But his people had never faced that choice. They were born strong, born warriors. They had never needed to choose between their nature and their survival. I understand now, he said finally, and I apologize for my mockery, for my ignorance. Nari picked up her chest plate and began securing it back in place. Minho helped her, fastening bolts and checking seals. Within minutes, she was fully armored again. The machine beneath was hidden once more. Apology accepted, Commander, she said. Your challenge taught us that we cannot hide forever. Eventually, the galaxy must see what humans have become. Perhaps it is better this happened in a tournament than on a real battlefield. Taeho nodded slowly. Perhaps, but now I must report what I have seen. My people should know. The galaxy should know. Will they react with fear? Nari asked. Or with respect? I do not know, Taeho admitted. But I think they will be more careful about underestimating humans again. As Taeho turned to leave, Nari called out to him one more time. Commander, when you make your report, tell them one more thing. Tell them that we are still human. No matter how much metal and circuitry we carry, our minds are still our own. Our choices are still our own. The augmentation makes us stronger, but it does not make us less human. It just makes us human who refuse to die. Taeho looked back at her, seeing both the warrior and the machine, the human and the symbol of what desperation could create. I will tell them, he promised. And he meant it. 2 days after the tournament, Taeho sat in his quarters writing his report. His hands moved slowly across the datapad, choosing each word carefully. How did one explain what he had witnessed? How did one make other Valkyrie understand without seeing it themselves? A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. Kyung-ho entered carrying a data chip. Commander, the station's information network has been busy. I thought you should see this. He handed over the chip. Taeho inserted it into his pad. Video footage began playing. Not from the tournament, but from the colony wars. Historical recordings that humans had kept classified until now. Apparently, Captain Nari had released them to the public networks earlier that day. The first video showed a human colony under attack. The settlement was primitive, just prefabricated buildings and basic defenses. Raiders swept through, their weapons tearing apart structures and people with equal ease. Taeho recognized the raiders as Karathi pirates, a species known for brutality. Human defenders fought back with desperation. Their weapons were crude, their tactics basic. They died by the dozens. The video showed a woman trying to protect children, her body torn apart by energy weapons. It showed a man fighting with broken bones, refusing to stop until a raider crushed his skull. This was the second colony massacre. Kyung-ho said quietly, 43 years ago. Over 8,000 humans died in 6 hours. The video changed. Now it showed a different battle, 10 years later. The humans wore basic armor and fought with more discipline. But Taeho could see the first augmentations. Soldiers with prosthetic limbs that gave them strength beyond natural ability. Neural interfaces that improved reaction time. They fought harder, lasted longer, but still died in large numbers. This was the Battle of Kepler Station, Kyung-ho narrated, the first major engagement where augmented human soldiers were deployed. They held the station for 2 weeks against superior numbers. More videos followed, battle after battle. Year after year, the progression was clear. Each engagement showed humans with more augmentation, better tactics, greater effectiveness, and fewer deaths. The ratio slowly changed from dozens of humans dying for each enemy casualty to 1 for 1, then better. The final video showed a recent operation. Human soldiers, fully augmented, clearing a pirate stronghold. They moved with machine precision, their weapons finding targets with perfect accuracy. The pirates, who had terrorized human space for decades, were overwhelmed in minutes. These augmented humans did not fight like desperate defenders anymore. They fought like apex predators. Taeho stopped the playback. His hands were shaking slightly. Why did she release these? She included a message, Kyung-ho said, pulling up another file. Captain Nari's face appeared on the screen, her armor fully sealed, hiding what lay beneath. Her recorded voice was calm and clear. To all species in the galactic community, for decades humans have hidden the extent of our military augmentation. We did this to avoid discrimination and to maintain tactical advantage. However, events at the Tournament of Worlds have made secrecy impractical. This message contains the truth about human military evolution. The image changed to show schematics of augmentation procedures, statistics on augmented populations, and timeline data showing how human capabilities had increased over 50 years. We did not choose this path lightly, Nari's voice continued. Every augmentation represents a sacrifice. Every piece of natural biology replaced is mourned. But we chose survival over purity, adaptation over tradition. We became what we needed to be. The screen showed images of augmented humans without armor. Taiho saw dozens like Nari, their bodies more machine than flesh. Some had even more extensive modifications. One soldier appeared to be 90% synthetic, only his brain and a few organs remaining biological. We hide behind armor not from shame, but from practicality, Nari explained. Many species react negatively to our appearance, but make no mistake. We are still human. We still feel. We still think. We still choose. The metal and circuits are tools, nothing more. We are not machines wearing human memories. We are humans using machines to survive. The message ended with a final statement. To those who would fear us, we seek no conquest. To those who would mock us, we need no pity. To those who would employ us, we serve with honor. To those who would fight us, we suggest you reconsider. Humanity has paid too high a price for survival to surrender it easily. Captain Nari, Human Mercenary Corps, signing off. Taeho sat in silence after the video ended. Kyung-ho waited patiently. The galactic networks are flooding with responses, Kyung-ho finally said. Shock, fear, anger, admiration. The Diplomatic Council has called an emergency session. Some species want to ban human augmentation. Others want to study it. A few are demanding humans be classified as artificial intelligence rather than organic life. That is absurd, Taeho said. They are clearly still alive. Still conscious? Still making their own choices. Yes, Kyung-ho agreed. But it makes some species uncomfortable to acknowledge that natural biology is not the only valid form of life. Taeho stood and walked to his window. Outside, Crossroads Haven bustled with activity. Ships from hundreds of worlds, each species different from the others. Some breathed oxygen, some methane. Some required radiation to survive. Each had adapted to their environment in their own way. Evolution takes many forms, Taeho said slowly. The Valkyrian evolved thick skin and dense bones over millions of years. Humans evolved intelligence and tool use, but now they have evolved again, using their intelligence to change their own biology. Is that really so different? Many will say yes, Kyung-ho replied. They will say natural evolution is sacred, that self-modification violates some universal law. What do you think? Taeho asked his sub-commander. Kyung-ho was quiet for a moment. I think humans did what they had to do. And I think the galaxy should be grateful they chose to become warriors rather than victims. Because if humans had been wiped out, what would stop the raiders from targeting another weak species next? Taeho nodded slowly. That was a wise observation. The same pirates and raiders who had attacked human colonies would not stop with humanity's extinction. They would simply find new prey. I have been thinking, Taeho said, about what the captain said, about how the augmentation does not make them less human. And I think she is right. Humanity is not defined by flesh and bone. It is defined by consciousness, by choice, by the ability to adapt and overcome. If anything, their willingness to sacrifice their natural forms for the survival of their species is the most human thing I have ever witnessed. A new chime at the door. This time it was Ambassador Wonho. Commander Taeho, the ambassador said, entering with formal gravity. I have a message from your government. You are to return home immediately to brief the Valkyrian High Command on the human situation. I expected as much, Taeho replied. What else? Wonho hesitated. There is also a request. From Captain Nari. She wishes to speak with you before you depart. Taeho felt curious. Does she say why? She has a proposal. A business proposal, if you will. Taeho and Kyung-ho exchanged glances. What could a human mercenary possibly propose to a Valkyrian commander? Tell her I will meet her in 1 hour, Taeho said. In the main observation deck. Wonho nodded and departed. Tejo returned to his report, but his mind was not on his writing anymore. He wondered what Captain Nari wanted. And he wondered if he was ready for whatever truth she would reveal next, because one thing had become very clear over the past few days. Nothing about humans was simple. Nothing about them was what it appeared to be. They were a species of hidden depths, of desperate measures, of impossible choices. They were survivors who had paid the ultimate price and kept fighting anyway. And Tejo suspected that what he had seen so far was only the beginning of understanding what humanity had truly become. The observation deck was nearly empty when Tejo arrived. Captain Nari stood by the massive window looking out at the stars. She had her helmet off, and Tejo could now clearly see the neural interface ports along her skull. In different lighting, with knowledge of what to look for, he could see other signs. The slight unevenness of her skin where synthetic materials met organic tissue. The too perfect stillness when she stood motionless. She turned as he approached. Lieutenant Minho and Specialist Yunji stood nearby, also without helmets. Kyung-ho had accompanied Tejo as usual. "Thank you for meeting me, Commander," Nari said. "You released the information to the public," Tejo noted. "That was bold." Nari nodded. "The tournament made secrecy impossible. Better to control the narrative ourselves than let others define us, and better to be honest about what we are than to keep pretending." "The galaxy is not reacting well," Tejo said. "There are calls to ban augmentation, to classify augmented humans as weapons rather than beings." "We expected that," Minho said. "Fear of the different is universal. But fear will pass. Eventually practicality will win." "Practicality?" Kyung-ho asked. Nari gestured to the window to the vast expanse of space beyond. "The galaxy is dangerous. Raiders, pirates, rogue states, territorial disputes. Every species needs protection. And augmented humans are very good at providing protection. Which brings us to why I asked you here," Nari continued. She pulled out a datapad and handed it to Tejo. "This is a threat assessment from our intelligence network. There is a new force gathering at the Galactic Rim. They call themselves the Red Claw Collective. Multiple raider clans banding together under unified leadership." Tejo scanned the data. His eyes widened. "These numbers, if accurate, they have assembled a fleet larger than most planetary defense forces." "The numbers are accurate," Yunji confirmed. "We have been tracking them for 6 months. They are preparing for a major campaign. Early intelligence suggests they are targeting several systems, including 3 Valkyrie colony worlds." Tejo felt his blood run cold. "How did you get this information?" "Our own intelligence networks have not reported this. Human intelligence operates differently," Nari explained. "We have infiltrators throughout the underworld, former pirates who switch sides, information brokers who owe us favors. We trade in knowledge as much as we trade in combat services." "Why are you telling us this?" Tejo asked suspiciously. "What do you gain?" Nari met his gaze steadily. "I am proposing an alliance. The Valkyrie Empire needs protection from the Red Claw. The human mercenary corps needs legitimacy in the eyes of the galactic community. We can help each other." "You want us to hire you," Kyung-ho said, understanding. "More than that," Minho corrected. "We want a formal alliance. Not just a contract, but a partnership. Human forces protecting Valkyrie colonies. Valkyrie political support for human rights in the Galactic Council. Mutual defense and mutual benefit." Tejo looked at the datapad again, his mind racing. The threat was real. If the Red Claw attacked, many Valkyrie would die. His people were warriors, yes, but they were spread thin across many worlds. They could not defend everything at once. "Why would you risk your people for ours?" Tejo asked. "We mocked you. Called you weak. Why help us?" Nari was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. "Because the galaxy will never accept humans as equals unless we prove ourselves worthy. And the best way to prove ourselves is to stand with those who need us. To show we are not just mercenaries fighting for money, but warriors fighting for justice. And because," Yunji added with a slight smile, "the Valkyrie have a reputation for honor. If you accept our help and we succeed, your endorsement will mean something to other species. You are respected. We are feared. Together, we could be formidable." Tejo had to admire their strategy. They thought several moves ahead, like players in a complex game, but he also sensed genuine sincerity in Nari's words. She wanted more than tactical advantage. She wanted her people to be seen as more than machines of war. "I cannot make this decision alone," Tejo said. "This would require approval from the High Command, from the Empress herself. We understand, Nari replied, which is why I am asking you to be our advocate. You have seen what we are. You understand why we made the choices we made. You can explain to your people that we are not monsters, just survivors. Tejo thought about the battles he had watched in the historical footage, the desperate fights, the slow transformation from victims to victors, the unimaginable sacrifices made in the name of survival. If I do this, he said slowly, if I recommend this alliance, I need to know something first. How far will you go? If the Red Claw attacks and we are losing, what are your limits? Will you use lethal force? Will you commit atrocities in the name of victory? Nari's expression became serious. We will use whatever force is necessary to protect those under our care. Yes, that includes lethal force against enemies. But we follow strict rules of engagement. We do not target civilians. We do not use weapons of mass destruction without authorization. We do not commit genocide even against enemies who show no mercy. Why not? Tejo asked. If you have already sacrificed your humanity by becoming machines, why hold on to these moral lines? Because, Nari said firmly, that is exactly what proves we are still human. Not our bodies, but our choices. We could become monsters. The capability is there, but we choose not to. We choose to fight with honor, even when honor is difficult. That choice, that refusal to abandon our ethics despite everything we have lost, that is what makes us human. Tejo felt something shift inside him, a deep respect for these strange, broken, rebuilt warriors. They had endured horrors he could barely imagine. They had changed themselves in ways that disturbed every natural instinct. But they had kept their souls intact. They had kept their humanity where it mattered most, in their hearts and minds. I will speak to the High Command, Tejo said. I will recommend the alliance. I cannot promise they will agree, but I will argue in your favor. That is all we ask, Nari replied. She extended her hand, the artificial one made of metal and synthetic muscle. Tejo looked at it for a moment, then grasped it firmly. The grip was strong, controlled, precise, but somehow it felt genuine. There is one more thing, Tejo said. If this alliance happens, I want to understand your people better. I want to visit human training facilities. See how augmented soldiers are made, learn your tactics and strategies, not to copy them, but to understand them. Knowledge in exchange for advocacy, Minho said with approval. Fair trade, agreed, Nari said. When you return to your homeworld, take your time. Present your case carefully. If they approve the alliance, we will send you an invitation to visit our training center on Luna Station. You will see everything, no secrets. They talked for another hour, discussing logistics, potential deployment strategies, and the political challenges ahead. Kyung-ho took detailed notes. The more they talked, the more Tejo realized how much thought the humans had put into this proposal. They were not desperate mercenaries begging for work. They were strategic partners offering something valuable. As the meeting concluded, Tejo noticed something. When Nari smiled, really smiled, the expression reached even her cybernetic eye. The synthetic optic could not cry or show emotion, but somehow the warmth in her face made even the machine parts seem alive. Captain, Tejo said as they prepared to depart. May I ask a personal question? You may ask, Nari replied. I may not answer, but you may ask. Do you ever wish you could go back? Before the augmentation? When you were fully human? Nari looked down at her hands, one organic and scarred, one entirely synthetic. Every day, she admitted quietly. I dream sometimes of having a body that needs sleep, that feels hunger, that gets sick and recovers. Simple things that I took for granted. She looked up, meeting his gaze. But then I wake up and remember the children I have saved, the colonies I have defended, the people who are alive because I was strong enough to protect them. And I realize that my old body could never have done that. So no, I do not wish to go back. I wish things had been different. But I do not regret the path I chose. Tejo nodded. He understood that distinction. Regret and wish were not the same thing. Safe travels, Commander, Nari said, putting her helmet back on. We will await your message. And you, Captain, Tejo replied. May your circuit stay charged and your aim stay true. It was a traditional Valkyrian blessing for warriors, modified for human circumstances. Minho laughed, a genuine sound of appreciation. Even through her helmet, Tejo sensed Nari's smile. As he walked back to his ship with Kyung-ho, Tejo felt the weight of what he had agreed to do. He would argue for an alliance with beings who frightened most of the galaxy. He would stand before the Valkyrian High Command and defend humans who were more machine than flesh. But he would do it, because he had seen the truth beneath the armor. And that truth was not weakness or desperation. It was strength of a kind the galaxy had never seen before. The strength to change, to adapt, to sacrifice everything except the things that truly mattered. Humanity had earned its place among the stars by refusing to die. Now Tahoe would help them claim that place with honor. 6 weeks later, Tahoe stood before the Valkyrian High Command in the Great Hall of Warriors. The chamber was ancient, its walls carved from living stone displaying the battles and triumphs of 10,000 years of history. Around the circular table sat 12 commanders, each representing a different region of the Valkyrian Empire. At the head sat Empress Ji-young, her presence commanding absolute attention. Taeho had spent those 6 weeks preparing his case. He had reviewed every piece of data. He had consulted with Kyung-ho and other trusted advisors. He had practiced his arguments until they were perfect, because he knew this moment would define not just his career, but possibly the future of both species. "Commander Taeho," the Empress said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of leadership, "you have requested this emergency session to discuss an alliance with human mercenary forces. The High Command has reviewed your initial report with great interest and considerable concern. You may now present your full argument." Taeho stepped forward, activating the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Images of the Red Claw Collective appeared, showing fleet compositions, attack patterns, and projected targets. "Honored Empress, esteemed commanders," Taeho began. "The threat we face is unprecedented. The Red Claw Collective represents the largest organized raider force in galactic history. Their fleet outnumbers our colonial defense forces 3-1. Intelligence suggests they will strike within 8 weeks. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Commander Dahan, a grizzled veteran, spoke up. "We have faced raiders before. We will defend our colonies as we always have." "With respect, Commander Dahan, the scale is different this time," Taeho replied. "The Red Claw has unified 23 clans under single leadership. They have capital ships, coordinated tactics, and enough firepower to overwhelm our scattered defenses. If we fight alone, we will lose colonies, many colonies." The holographic display changed, showing the human footage Nari had released. Augmented soldiers in combat, their precision and effectiveness clear even to those who had never seen it before. "The Human Mercenary Corps has offered an alliance," Taeho continued. "They will deploy 5,000 augmented soldiers to defend our 3 most vulnerable colonies. In exchange, they ask for political support in the Galactic Council and long-term defense contracts." "Machines," Commander Huang said with distaste. "You ask us to ally with beings who have mutilated themselves, who have abandoned their natural forms for artificial enhancement. I ask us to ally with warriors who chose survival over extinction," Taeho corrected firmly. "I have seen what humans have become. Yes, they have augmented themselves extensively, but they remain conscious, self-aware beings who make their own choices. They are not machines. They are beings who use machines to overcome biological limitations. Is that not unnatural?" another commander asked. Taeho had expected this question. "Empress-honored commanders, define natural. We Valkyrian evolved thick skin and dense bones over millions of years. Humans evolved intelligence and tool use. Now they have evolved further, using their intelligence to enhance their own biology. Is that truly different from how we breed for strength? How we select mates based on warrior ability? We shape our evolution too. Humans simply do it faster." The Empress leaned forward slightly, her expression thoughtful. "You speak with passion, Commander Taeho. Has your opinion of humans changed so much from the warrior who mocked them at the tournament?" Taeho met her gaze steadily. "Yes, Your Majesty. I was wrong. I judged them by appearance and assumption. I saw weak bodies hiding behind crude armor. But beneath that armor I found something I did not expect. Not weakness, but a strength born from desperation and sacrifice. They are not inferior to us. They are simply different." He changed the holographic display again, showing the historical footage of the colony wars, the progression from desperate victims to efficient warriors. The chambers grew quiet as the commanders watched humans fighting, dying, and eventually prevailing through systematic self-modification. "Every piece of metal you see in these soldiers represents a choice," Taeho explained. "A choice to give up comfort, natural sensation, even pieces of their identity so that others might live. Can we who pride ourselves on warrior tradition not respect that sacrifice?" Commander Dahan spoke again, his voice less certain now. Even if we respect their sacrifice, can we trust them? They are mercenaries. They fight for money. They fight for survival, Kyung-ho interjected, stepping forward with permission from Tai-ho. I have also studied the humans extensively, honored commanders. Yes, they are mercenaries. But examine their contracts. They refuse assignments that target civilians. They refuse genocidal missions. They have rules of engagement stricter than many national militaries. They are mercenaries, but they are not without honor. The Empress raised her hand for silence. Commander Tai-ho, you have made your arguments well. But I must ask the crucial question. If we form this alliance and the Red Claw is defeated, what prevents these powerful augmented warriors from turning against us? They could overthrow governments, conquer worlds. What binds them to loyalty? Tai-ho had prepared for this question most carefully. Your Majesty, I met with Captain Nari, the human commander. I spoke with her at length about human motivation. Humans are not seeking conquest. They are seeking acceptance. They want to be seen as equals in the galactic community, not as monsters or machines. They want their children to grow up in a galaxy that respects them rather than fears them. He paused, choosing his next words with care. They could have kept their augmentation secret. They could have used their advantage to dominate weaker species. Instead, they released information about themselves to the public, knowing it would cause fear and backlash. Why? Because they value honesty over advantage. Because despite everything they have become, they still hold to human values of transparency and consent. The Empress stood, and all conversation ceased. She walked slowly around the circular table, her footsteps echoing in the ancient chamber. I have ruled for 80 years, she said finally. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen species prosper and others fade into extinction. The constant factor in survival is adaptation. Those who adapt thrive. Those who remain rigid break. She stopped before Tai-ho. Humans have adapted in ways that disturb us, that challenge our understanding of what life should be. But they have survived. Against odds that would have destroyed most species, they have survived. And now they offer us their strength in our time of need. The Empress turned to address the full council. I propose we accept Commander Tai-ho's recommendation. We will form a defensive alliance with the Human Mercenary Corps. We will deploy them to protect our colonies against the Red Claw. And if they succeed, if they prove themselves worthy, we will support their petition for full recognition in the Galactic Council. Your Majesty, Commander Huang protested. Surely we should consider. I have considered, the Empress interrupted firmly. I have considered that our people will die if we face the Red Claw alone. I have considered that honor means nothing to the dead. I have considered that alliances are built on mutual need, and we need these augmented warriors as much as they need our political support. The question before this council is simple. Do we adapt or do we break? One by one, the commanders gave their votes. It was not unanimous. 3 voted against the alliance, citing concerns about human reliability and the unnaturalness of augmentation. But 9 voted in favor, swayed by the threat assessment and the Empress's support. The alliance is approved, the Empress declared. Commander Tai-ho, you will serve as liaison between Valkyrian forces and human units. You will coordinate the defense of our colonies, and you will ensure that both sides understand and respect each other's ways of war. Tai-ho bowed deeply. I am honored, Your Majesty. 4 weeks later, Tai-ho stood on the surface of Valkyrian colony Hadrian watching transport ships descend from orbit. Each ship carried augmented human soldiers, equipment, and supplies. The local garrison watched nervously as the first humans emerged, their armor sealed and impressive. Captain Nari was among the first to disembark. She walked across the landing pad to where Tai-ho waited with his command staff. Commander Tai-ho, she said, saluting in the human military fashion. The 3rd Battalion Human Mercenary Corps reporting for duty. Tai-ho returned the salute in the Valkyrian style, hand over heart. Captain Nari, welcome to Hadrian. Your arrival is timely. Our sensors detected Red Claw scout ships in the outer system yesterday. Then we have work to do, Nari replied. She turned to her troops, who stood in perfect formation despite the long journey. Battalion, you know your assignments. Defensive positions Alpha through Delta. Movement protocols are uploaded to your navigation systems. We have 3 days to prepare before the Red Claw arrives. Let us make those 3 days count. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, spreading out to their assigned positions. Tai-ho watched them work, noting how they coordinated without verbal communication, probably using the neural links he knew they possessed. Lieutenant Minho approached with a data pad. Commander Tejo, Captain Nari requests a joint tactical briefing in 2 hours. She wants Valkyrie and human officers to coordinate strategies before the attack comes.